Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast of JoyClicks. I am your host, Christian Buckley, joined by my Chewie, Michael Connors.
It is a pleasure to join you here today. We're both suffering through this tropical storm, as it is, but, we're pushing through.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're a little further up, so we just get, like, the little side effects, kind of the storm,
Very
it's like
true.
rain and some
Very
wind.
true.
But,
Nothing like what people actually go through.
Oh, yeah.
Which is bad.
That being said, I told you this moments ago, call could drop at any moment, so we're gonna just roll with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
How you doing, Mike?
I was just about to ask you the same thing, but I'm doing great, man.
Nice.
Just been living the life.
Mhm.
It's been pretty nice weather over here, except for today, really.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Doing pretty good. Channel, been doing well. We just started a new show. Been very busy. Very swamped, between all the content consumption and creation. But as always, I love talking Star Wars. Loves talking Star Wars with you. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
a highlight of the week.
For sure, And I feel like every week now, I think it's just because I don't have a good perception of time anymore. It feels like it's been a year since we've done an episode every single week, whether it's Monday or Tuesday.
Honestly, I think I've said this on a previous episode, but I always feel like there's going to be less news that there actually is.
Yeah.
Either that or just like, I don't know, we do talk about the news a lot, so it fills it all out.
Yeah. Speaking of that, today, light news week, we are going to be reviewing our impressions of Alphabet Squadron, the next book that we're tackling in our continuing Star Wars book review club series. That's going to be in the later half of the show. Timestamps are in the description on YouTube, in the podcast comment on whatever audio service you're on. News about Ron Howard and Solo. Mando, the publishing effort, got an update on that. A Disney Plus content innovation, that's not the right word, but it's something that they're implementing.
I don't think, innovation's not quite the right word.
Yeah, but it's new. It could have lasting effects, so we're going to cover that. And, before we do any of that, though, we're going to kick the show off with a visit to the Jedi Archives, as we do every week. And I believe I went first last week, Mike. So if you would like to introduce us to a new aspect of the lore and world of Star Wars, please educate.
Well, not quite a new aspect to the world of Star Wars, but somebody who had a more pertinent role in George Lucas's original idea for the original Star Wars. Biggs Darklighter does show up in A New Hope as it stands, I think, like in the 1997 special release. Are you familiar with this character?
So Biggs, I think yes, but if I'm being real with you, Mike, I think my only the folder in my head that sorts Biggs whenever I think of Biggs is the bit from Family Guy. When it's like Joe, I think, playing Biggs, and he's like, or Crispy and Luke is like, hey, he said he got it, guys, so we don't have to go fight the Empire.
Oh, no.
Is that
no.
Biggs?
That's not Biggs. That's oh man, I forget. That's Dak.
Oh,
Dak.
Okay.
You're thinking of Dak from Empire Strikes Back. Biggs Darklighter is he was a human male pilot who fought for the Alliance to restore the Republic, the Rebels, during the early days of the Galactic Civil War. He grew up on Tatooine. He was a friend of Luke. He left the homeworld for the Imperial Academy, but he defected to the Rebels. And he shows up in right before Luke is about to go board his X-Wing in A New Hope. He shows up and they have a conversation. Luke is like, hey, Biggs. And they have this quick back and forth. But in a deleted scene, Luke and Biggs have this conversation on top of this building in Tatooine, where Biggs tells him that he joined the Rebels, and Luke kind of gets jealous. and wants to join it too. You kind of like see the seeds are like planted.
Nice.
Maybe jealous is not the right word, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen that scene before. Like, I've seen that cutscene, and it was always interesting. Like, I think maybe it's just because I'm so familiar with A New Hope, but seeing that scene, I think within the last 5 years for the first time, it kind of felt out of character for Luke to me.
Yeah, definitely did, and I think that's probably part of the reason why it's a deleted scene.
Yeah.
It like taken with like all the other deleted scenes that happened. There's one where Luke like looks up through his binoculars and sees like the Tantive 4 get like that battle with the Star Destroyer that happens right at the beginning of A New Hope, and like all those scenes like kind of detract from like the pace of the movie. I think it would be weird. It would be super weird if like Biggs and Luke have this like conversation. I don't know. I don't think it would work.
Mm-hmm. Well, nice. Does Biggs show up again? Does he die? Is he one of the X-Wing pilots that dies in 4?
I believe, yeah, he does die in the Advent system.
I knew it was someone, but I knew it definitely wasn't Wedge, because everybody loves Wedge, apparently. So I knew it wasn't him, but...
Well, it says, hold on, it says here that he reunites with Skywalker. Skywalker successfully destroyed the Death Star, but not before Darklighter was killed in combat by Darth Vader.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, similarly, you went for a pilot, maybe thematically with Alphabet Squadron. I went for a ship.
Sure. Okay.
The UT-60D U-Wing Starfighter / support craft. So the manufacturer of this model is the Incom Corporation. It was a transport and gunship model manufactured by them and used by the Alliance to restore the Republic during the Galactic Civil War.
Wait, what is the name of this?
UT-60D U-Wing Starfighter.
Alright. Continue, sorry.
It was used to drop troops in battle, provide cover for them. U-Wings were pivotal in transport and protection of Rebel Alliance's ground forces during the Battle of Scarif, as we saw in Rogue One, and we will see in Squadrons this fall, and we did see in Alphabet Squadron.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how this like handles in Squadrons this fall.
Yeah.
I wonder how like each ship handles differently.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tangent, but
yeah. I mean, personally, just from what I know of the U-Wing, right, and what we've seen in live action, I get the vibe that it handles like a boat almost, Like, I feel like it takes wide turns.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I don't know. I've always liked the design, though, because I feel like it is a recent addition to the lineup of ships, right? Like, this, right. I feel like this is Disney era, but it's one of...
No, it is Disney era, I think.
It's one of my favorite ship designs. Like, I like this more than an A-Wing.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This was Kairos' ship, right?
From the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have a very unique design. Is this the same ship that they use when they're like, oh, we're Rogue One in Rogue One?
No, I don't think so. So I think, like when they're leaving?
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you meant like the Empire transport that they invaded with. No, not that one. It's the one you said. Like when they go to Galen, I think.
No, wait. When they go to Scarif is what I'm talking about.
Well, when they invade Scarif, aren't they in like an Imperial transport?
That's true. They are an Imperial transport. I forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Like the wings are forward all the time. Sometimes they spread out, and you got 2 different functions. It's cool.
Yeah, it is interesting. It costs 65,000 credits.
That seems like a bargain.
I mean, I don't know how much. I wonder what the conversion rate is. 1 credit to $1 US.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, who knows?
That does it this week for the Jedi Archives, though. Again, very fun segment. Always enjoy it.
Yeah.
Let's start. We're going to end with a book today. We're going to lead with a book today. So,
sure.
Mike, a few weeks back, I know you did not remember this, but a few weeks back, we talked about a story of a publishing effort from Del Rey to have a line of books, children's books, comic books, art books, inspired by and related to the Mandalorian show. And the highlight, I think, from that episode where we covered this story, for both of us, was the original novel that was going to be taking place in The Mandalorian. We were speculating of, like, is this going to maybe bridge a gap between Season 1 and 2? Is it going to establish more about Mando before Season 1? His, like, the group of Mandalorians that were still living together in the sewers. Like, what avenue was this going to take? Because it was the most potential. It wasn't an adaptation. It wasn't a retelling of Season 1. It was an original story.
Right.
This book, which I believe was slated to originally come out relatively soon, it looks like by the end of 2020, like December, has now been delayed to fall 2021.
All right.
What's your take here?
I mean, honestly, that's fine. I would assume that a lot of things are going to get pushed, you know? I wasn't necessarily looking forward to this in any way. Honestly, I kind of forgot it was happening, personally.
Yeah.
But
do you think that pushing a Mandalorian original story to the fall 2021 release slot might sort of hint at maybe a lack of Mando Season 3 next fall?
Possibly. Though it makes me, like, cautious because I know that a lot of things have been disrupted by this pandemic.
Right.
So, like, it's hard for me to say that I think of it one way or the other because I'm not really sure whether it's a product of, like, just the time that we're living in or something that's actually indicative of, like, the actual show and what's going to happen in the future with that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely a possibility, but I mean, like, if to me, like, what would they be doing right now on The Mandalorian anyways? I would say probably writing it.
Right.
And I mean, like, that's not really something that you could still do that during a pandemic.
Right, because we've talked about other Star Wars Disney Plus series, you know, living and in pre-production through the pandemic right now. Like, we've had weeks where we talk about Obi-Wan updates. I think the notable one since being in quarantine was the Cassian Andor show is in full pre-production in quarantine.
I mean, it's definitely possible, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I know that there's probably something lost in, like, not actually being in the room with each other, but you can still like write something over FaceTime, like, you know?
Right. Like, we do a show over FaceTime, yeah. FaceTime every week.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
It's possible you do lose something. It's not the same as being in a studio, and I know, like, doing a podcast is very different than doing a full series production, but, like...
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I don't think it's necessarily an indicator as much as it might just be filling a gap because we're still unsure. Like, I don't even know if Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the first Marvel Disney Plus live action series that was supposed to drop this year, I don't even know if that's in production right now. Like, I haven't been following that, but I don't know what's going on with that side of the Disney live action TV side. So Mando, that isn't even in the shooting for season 3, that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get it next year. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I know, like, as a whole, you know, this pandemic has completely upended everything. But I mean, actually, interestingly, I was watching an interview. It's kind of unrelated but very related with, but I'll be brief, with the director of the new Dune movie, and he said that they're still going to go with like their release date this year, and that they're like doing everything, including like VFX and like everything involved with the movie remotely.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's definitely possible. But I guess we'll have to see like whether or not that affects the quality.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this last week, but the further we've gotten out from last week, and we've seen a couple other studios adjust to release schedules, like I believe Christopher Nolan's Tenet got another delay to like November now or something.
That movie looks cool.
Yeah, I love Christopher Nolan. I love all his movies. They're great theater experiences. But like, man, I'm not going. I've said this last week. I'm not going in a theater until like maybe in March, the earliest. Like,
right.
Either drop it digitally or delay it indefinitely until we have a better plan. Until we're all able to watch movies like we're in the Senate. You know, like.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it's just such a. It's just so cocky in a way to be like, oh, we're hitting our September date, we're hitting our November date. Like, you don't know. Like, just stop. You know, it's better for everybody.
True.
But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether that or not that actually happens.
Yeah, and thankfully, you gave me a great segue, because Mandalorian, as we have learned today, Mandalorian Season 2 got an update from the Disney financial call that's going on as of recording 6:03 p.m. East Coast on Tuesday. Mando Season 2 is still hitting October, so COVID did not delay the plans or production pipeline for this.
Cool. I mean, that must mean that they were probably done with shooting it before COVID happened.
Yeah, which was expected. You know, I think there were rumors that was the case, and that I believe Favreau officially made a statement and say like, yeah, we are in post. We're doing our production or like post-production from home remotely. I know there were similar, like a few other big productions on the level of Mandalorian that were already transitioned. They prepped, you know?
Yeah.
So glad.
I mean, like I said, I guess this shows that you can definitely do these kinds of things from home.
Yeah, I think the main thing would just be actual production, like shooting, you know?
Of course.
And that's why I tossed the question about no Mando Season 3 potentially, because, like, again, it is still very uncertain. I haven't looked into, like I said, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know there are, like, some productions that are still going on now, just doing, like, very frequent testing, so it's just so uncertain that I wouldn't count on a follow-up season next year, you know?
Well, I mean, I think that there is a possibility that it may happen. I wouldn't completely count it out, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, it's good to know that we're going to get Season 2.
Mm-hmm. Because Mando Season 1 premiered in November of 2019, and I believe began production of, like, shooting midway through Season 1 airing. If I'm remembering correctly, because I believe there was an episode where we were doing our Mando review, and it was like, oh, hey, news story. Favreau posted a picture on set of Season 2. So, again, depending on the scale and scope of Season 3, like, it's very tricky to say, but...
I remember us talking about that specifically.
Yeah.
That, like, they were so confident in it that they were already doing Season 2.
Right. So, like, I would be doubtful that they start shooting Season 3 this year, even if it is happening, even if, like, it's been greenlit, like, just because of how uncertain everything is, you know?
Sure.
But we are lucky. I'm happy that we're going to be able to review more Mando this year, so.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Another piece of information that might be, like, future news, but it's worth talking about right now. We're talking about the quarantine still. Disney, at their call today, announced officially that Mulan, which was supposed to be released in March of this year and then was delayed indefinitely, and we saw them readjust their entire release schedule. Black Widow pushed away, Phase 4 of the MCU really put on the shelf. So we also, I believe last week or the week before, talked about the next 3 Star Wars films being delayed.
Right.
Leading with Mulan, they're doing this new experimental tier of Disney Plus, where on top of paying your monthly subscription, or maybe you just pay yearly, for $30 US dollars, you'll be able to watch Mulan as a VOD on... Where's this date? Come on, I just had it. I think it's November. Not important, but they're releasing it as a VOD for $30 on Disney Plus.
So it's the subscription that I already pay for Disney Plus plus $30 one time.
Yeah.
Just to watch Mulan one time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if it's like a one-time viewing or what, but we talked about this as a possibility. I did call it. Just want to do a little self-backpack right now.
Good job, Christian. Yeah.
Because I think we had these conversations like this before of just drop it on Disney Plus, just drop Black Widow on Disney Plus. And then people were saying, they wouldn't do that, it's too big of a tentpole. But I was like, okay, well, if you don't want to lose ticket sales, just charge the price of tickets. And I've seen a lot of people who are defending the $30 price of admission of okay, say you have a family of 5, right? Mulan is aimed at families. Drop $30, that's the price of 2 movie tickets, and you get a whole household able to watch it, and Disney gets the entire revenue instead of splitting it with theaters.
That's kind of revolutionary, by the way.
Yeah. Because we were talking a little bit before we started recording today of is this a new standard? What's the precedent here? And there's a lot of talk, specifically from Bob Chapek, the new half CEO, because Iger's still there. It's weird.
Yeah, the new Mickey.
Yeah. He basically said that this isn't a new initiative. This isn't anything new. We're just interested to see how this format of a release works. But they're they're keeping tabs on it. I think it would be foolish to say, oh yeah, Black Widow is just going to keep getting pushed, so the rest of the MCU just keeps getting pushed back and back and back.
They're saying they're interested in it. That's such code for we're watching this with great intensity.
We'll watch your career with great interest.
Exactly.
I don't know if there's much to say on this show about the price of admission or whatever. I think it's fine. If I wanted to watch Mulan, I would split that price with somebody who wants to watch it with me, but I don't think it's as big a deal as people are saying, and if Disney does see a good return on this, I've seen people doing the math breakdown of how much they'd actually be getting that they originally would have lost to theaters. Depending on how long we're in this situation, Mike, do you think we reach a point where the next big Star Wars film drops on Disney Plus for $30?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that this would ever get to impact their original series?
No. Okay. Because I think that they'd have to stay true to their pre-COVID promise of,
mm-hmm.
You pay this subscription fee and you get these things.
Yeah.
I think COVID-19, as it has changed most everything in this world,
mm-hmm.
I think it has also changed the movie industry.
Yes.
And I think in ways that we have yet to really fully realize, and I think this is only the beginning, because companies are going to see that it's way more profitable to just be hey, watch Star Wars Rogue. Imagine if they were hey, watch Star Wars Episode 7 on Disney Plus, and you only get to pay $30.
This would.
Do you know how many people would buy that? Do you know how much money they would make? And do you know how much money they'd have to split to other movie theaters? None of it.
Yeah. So you're saying the hypothetical of if 7 didn't come out yet, if 7 was premiering on Disney Plus.
Imagine if 7 was premiering on Disney Plus in 2022.
Yeah.
Right. just for instance.
Like it never came out originally. Like we're still in this in between of like the sequels don't exist yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And they're like, we're going to, and Disney Plus exists, right? And they say we're going to release Star Wars Episode 7 on Disney Plus. Households pay like $35, right?
Yeah.
They make $35. Like they don't have to split it with anybody.
Yeah.
It's going to change the movie industry. I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I actually like the experience of going to the movie theater, and I think that in some ways that will never go away. But I think that this has profound impacts, and I don't know how exactly it's going to shake out.
Yeah, like we're not experts, we're not analysts. I'm very interested in the business side of entertainment. Like I love reading about how the games industry works sales-wise, you know, like revenue, income, digital versus physical sales. And I think there's an interesting conversation to be had that you're pointing out about film, because on the game side at least, quarantine has really boosted significantly the sale of digital games on consoles. And it's getting to a point where PlayStation is launching the PS5 in 2 SKUs, one being a disc-based console and the other being all digital. Now, because of how everything works, that would have had to been settled and agreed upon before COVID happened, but like it's been trending in a way, and then COVID was like the big push that's making it really seem like we're approaching a future of digital only, or like digital majority game sales. And I do think, especially with Disney and being as big as they are in terms of output in Hollywood for blockbusters, Mulan is gonna do very well. Like I see people clowning on it, I see people being like, oh, $30, come on, why be so cheap? But like it's gonna do very well. I would have thought they would have led with Black Widow, personally.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, like that's what Twitter is saying constantly right now. It's like, okay, so do this for Black Widow, right? Like,
yeah, well, they will. I almost guarantee it. I mean, I do want to reiterate what you said. Like, I obviously am not an expert on this.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I like keep myself educated about these things.
Yeah.
But like, I'm definitely not an expert. But I think it would be naive to think that the pandemic is not going to have some effect on this industry in some way.
Yes.
And how exactly that pans out, I'm not exactly sure, but that's my theory, that's my prediction.
Right.
Take it as you will.
And getting back to the Star Wars of it all, like
yeah.
Last week we talked about how COVID delayed the next 3 movies, right? And the first one was 2022.
Right.
Depending, again, on how the state of the world progresses in that time, like I think we will eventually see a state where productions are in full swing again, you know, sets are fine, because I know right now Tom Holland is like shooting the Uncharted movie, so he's on a set, he's doing stuff, he's shooting a movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will be able to get to a point before 2022 where people can be on set making a Star Wars movie, and if Mulan kicks things off, if it does very well, if it makes Disney, which like 3 times the money they would have made in theaters, which is what some of the numbers I've seen thrown around on Twitter, like maybe prepare to watch Taika Waititi's Star Wars film in your living room.
I wouldn't count it out.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on that? Like, I know we are both fans of going to theaters, you know, like regardless of how we felt walking out of episode 9, being there for the finale for episode 9 in a theater was an experience, right? Like it's still better than watching it at home. So like, would you be disappointed personally if you had to, your only option was, okay, new Star Wars movie, watch it on your sofa?
Yeah, I guess it would be I want to say that it would make me really sad.
Yeah. Like
if that actually ended up being the reality. I'm just trying to be realist about it.
Yes.
I think that that's probably going to happen. There's nothing like the experience of actually going to a movie theater, sitting down and like seeing something on that big of a screen for the first time. Is like, I don't know. I don't have to explain it to you.
Right. Yeah. Like There's movies I've seen where I was mad that I didn't see it in a theater. Like, I didn't see Dunkirk in theaters. I was like, okay, never missing a Nolan movie again. But, like... Yeah.
And that's why I say, in some way, I think that there's going to be, like, movie theaters always.
Yeah.
Just because I think that that's, like, you know, from the inception of, like, the moving picture, that's always been around. And in a way, that's kind of like a communal thing.
Right.
And you know, I like going to the movies with friends.
Yeah.
Lots of people do. So yeah, I think that's always going to exist, but I think we're going to see a shift.
Yeah, me too.
So
I do think there's more interesting things to dive into there in terms of, like, if this does continue, what separates a series like Kenobi from Taika's film? Like, how do you break things down in the minutia? Is it just on the budget and that's how you decide? Are we charging for this? Is it part of the service? Like, I think there's a lot of questions that this will raise, and we won't know the answers until we hit those bridges, but worth talking about. Probably not going to impact Star Wars immediately because, again, we just got the delays, but definitely interesting.
Definitely interesting to talk about. Yeah, good conversation.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a week without Solo rumors.
Definitely not.
And speaking of Disney Plus...
Listen, we hit the top two. We always talk about Mandalorian in some way, and we always talk about Solo in some way.
Lately, it's been COVID also.
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah. So recently, we've been following up weekly at this point of, like, Alden had an interview. He talked about Solo for the first time since 2018. Rumors of the Lando show kicking off a Solo verse to release on Disney Plus, and then with an interview for comicbook.com, Ron Howard was asked about a Solo sequel, and his response was, well, there's no sequel planned now, and it's amazing to be part of a Star Wars movie that seems to be a kind of underground hit, which is not what you'd expect, but it's been an odd, strange journey for that movie. So that is where he is on Star Wars. The substitute director for Solo, A Star Wars Story, has not heard any word of Solo 2.
Well, I think I said this to you before we started recording. I don't think that that's necessarily indicative of the fact that nothing is happening.
Yes.
That just means that he's not aware of it, which means nothing, actually, because he could still be involved in something and deny it. Right. So,
even if there was a world where it was happening and he doesn't know, like, he's not under NDA and can't say anything, like, obviously, I don't even know if he would be approached again, right? Because he was Lord and Miller were the choice. It didn't go their way, and they were like, you know what, let's get Ron Howard, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I don't know necessarily if he'd be the one they call back. Like, whenever we talked about Solo 2, more recently, at least, not necessarily a film, but, like, the idea of a series, Ron Howard returning was never, like, something that was a lock in my head. Like, I never even considered it, you know?
No, me either. I mean, I think it's interesting that he's, like, kind of weighing in on it, in a way. I think what he has to say about it becoming a cult classic is or maybe not a cult classic, but a cult film.
Yeah.
Is interesting. I think it definitely has risen to that level.
For sure.
And it's cool to see that he notices that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily count his comments out. I don't necessarily think that his comments count out the possibility of a Solo anything.
Right. Because...
And I also don't count it out in his involvement. Though I don't think it's likely.
Right.
Since he was second string.
Yeah. And that's not to discredit what he did, right? Because both of us really like Solo, and Ron Howard's direction is part of that, you know? Like,
sure.
But I think, especially recently, talking about Lando being a series and being the spearhead for the spiritual Solo 2 universe, like, I don't know if you would approach him for that character at this point, you know? It's like, okay, we got you to do Han. You did a real good job at that. Let's give somebody else Lando. Give somebody else a chance to really fully characterize Donald Glover Lando and spearhead that show. So if it is true, the rumors that we talked about last week of Lando getting his own series, I would extra doubt Ron Howard is the one directing it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll see how that continues. But
yeah, well, I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't think the saga with the Solo stuff has ended yet.
I don't either. I think the fan campaign is strong enough. We've heard a handful of people related to the original release at this point acknowledge the fandom of Solo 2. So they're not the executives, right? They're not the ones greenlighting this, but they see it. I'm sure they will bring that up when they're in contract negotiations with Disney execs. Like, hey, you see this campaign?
Right.
So make Solo 2 happen.
Make Solo 2 happen. Absolutely.
But Mike, I believe that is all the news stories of the week.
All right. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. Light week. Lot to dissect though.
Yeah. Well, light week. I think we had one of the more. That was like a highlight of the entire show for me.
All
that
right.
conversation that we had.
Okay.
I liked it. It was very deep.
What does it say to you that the highlight conversation from the 43 episodes of the show so far had little to nothing to do with Star Wars?
Listen. I didn't say the highlight. I said a highlight.
Okay.
I wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did say the, but I meant a. I meant
Okay.
a.
All right. Well, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's gonna impact it eventually, right? It's foolish to think that Disney, who has final say over all this stuff, and their platform, which is exploding in popularity, is not gonna pursue that for one of the biggest film franchises ever. So,
For sure.
but one of the biggest film franchises ever also has books. It is time to talk about Star Wars Alphabet Squadron.
Yep.
This is the first of a trilogy that only has 2 parts out right now. General thoughts, Mike. Did you like this?
So, yes. Overall, yeah, totally love this. Now, I have some reservations about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the beginning of this book, the first maybe third of it, was super slow.
Yes. Do you think that's due to all the characters we have to get adjusted with? There's a lot of starting and stopping.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes, totally. And I think that even when all the characters get together, when they get to that point,
mm-hmm.
I still think that there's a lot of camaraderie building that has to be done between all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That really kind of drags the book a little bit.
Right.
But that's just my opinion. Overall, though, I think this is a great book.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very colorfully written.
Yes, yes, I agree. That's a very good way to say it.
Yeah, it really puts you right into everything. The author is a very good writer. Alexander Freed, I think his name is.
Yes.
And I enjoy overall, I enjoy the story that it sets up. I think it sets up a story more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a conflict, but I found, and I mean, this isn't anything, I'm sure you thought the same thing, because it's the point of the book. The conflict was mostly internal and a team building exercise, and it felt like more of an icebreaker almost. It definitely is setting up a sequel, on.
Oh, totally.
I got this book in the mail 3 weeks ago, I think. Maybe more than that. I don't know. I forget how time works. But on the cover, it says Book 1 of the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. And you informed me the second book just came out. So, they locked in a trilogy for this story early on. And I think that's pretty evident in the way this story shakes out.
Mm-hmm.
And not in a bad way. I talked about MCU earlier. I'm a fan of that. I like that kind of storytelling. So...
Yeah.
sort of reflecting that, I guess, is sort of what you said about starting and stopping, kind of slow pace at the beginning, and then dealing with the camaraderie, which is also a build, is kind of the same reason that I don't think Avengers 1 holds up, you know? But because I'll stop talking about Marvel in a second, but like with that, it's like, okay, we have these individual characters we're introducing through their own films.
Yeah.
And then the first half of Avengers is them meeting each other and dealing with each other's baggage. And that's very much the formula that this book follows for the first like third, like you said. But it's nowhere as deep as that, you know, because it's a completely different medium. But overall, the crew, like having a crew that has to work together, I'm a fan of that narrative arc, so I really liked the book a lot too.
I think overall the book was really cool, and I think, like you said, like it just sets up something else. It's very clearly like the first book in something, and we know it's a trilogy. Now, I mean, I find it interesting. Like, what do you make of the main character, Eureka? She's like an Imperial pilot, part of what's the name of that squadron of TIE fighters that they're fighting?
I'm blanking.
I'm totally blanking on it too.
Well, regardless, I think having... I was reading as Erica, but... I'm
really bad at that, so maybe you're right. So,
I think centering it with Erica being like...
That makes so much more sense, Christian.
Eureka?
Oh my god.
Reading this whole book. Eureka!
Whatever.
No,
now I'm embarrassed. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought the choice to like sort of give it from her perspective a lot is like, again, really interesting and sort of what I wish we got a little more of from Finn. Where Finn, it was like the concept of a turncoat stormtrooper, and he really never believed in the ideals of the First Order, right? Here, we have Erica, who is like, she carried out a mission, you know, like she did some damage, and now is going into this new era of her life where she has to adjust to sort of a galaxy that's about to re-identify itself. And I really think her trying to find her place in this is such an interesting path to follow for a character, specifically in a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
That I'm glad she was like kind of the focal point.
Especially considering the setting of the book and the time period in which it takes place in the canon. She and it's cool how she has to deal with like everybody just like basically distrusting her.
Yeah.
And how she deals with that. It's cool to watch that inner monologue go on.
Definitely. And I like the banter that creates for her to bounce off of the other characters with, because like I think she is the most extreme example of a character with baggage, you know, completely defecting from one side to the other, essentially. Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate that everybody does have some sort of, not character flaw, even though they do, but like really having that dynamic where it's sort of, I want it to get to this point eventually, I'll just drop it right now. Kind of the idea that The Last Jedi puts on the table in this universe of like gray, you know, heroes on both sides, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's all over this book, and I was into that.
In what way? Like the characters? Some of the characters, do you mean?
Like, I think a lot of it is the world, you know, and just the way Erica views it. One of the things I liked a lot was the like seeing rebellion propaganda, or like New Republic propaganda, I guess. Like the Jyn Erso thing.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, and like seeing that from the perspective of a former Imperial, you know, I think is just exactly what I'm talking about in terms of this book taking the whole gray in the galaxy approach that The Last Jedi also took.
Yeah, because I mean, especially like Erica, she has a very like she has a very jaded look at like both the Galactic Empire and the rebels.
Yeah.
Like she's just like skeptical of everything, and it's cool to see her look at the world through that lens.
Definitely. What did you think of the rest of the crew?
Of Alphabet Squadron?
Yes.
Yeah. I liked some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, some of them I didn't really enjoy.
Are there any standouts that you really liked?
Yeah, Nath.
Mm-hmm.
Nath Tenzin, man.
Yeah.
He rolls.
Yeah, he was cool. I think I'm with you of like the team together as a unit. I really like.
Sure.
When we break it down to the individual stuff, yeah, there are some things I had nitpicks with of like, I'm not necessarily fully on board with you, but like you're kind of essential to this team. And
Can I just say that I'm not really into chess
okay.
much. That's just the vibe that I get from her.
Yeah. I mean, I thought she was fine. I thought she was like one of the weaker ones out of the group. Like I think there's a lot of potential with her for the sequel.
I just think she's really annoying.
Yeah, like
I got annoyed by her character.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't something that like super stood out to me, but I was like, okay, I think there's more to explore with you eventually, and that's one of the downsides I think of this book setting up a trilogy is because there are definitely some characters and threads that kind of just get like sidelined. It's like, okay, I feel like there's more here.
Yeah.
I hope we get that. Like,
yeah, same. I mean, you know, who knows? Maybe the next two books she becomes a better character.
yeah, and I believe she's on the cover of the second one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see how that shakes out. Like, one thing that I didn't know how to feel about at first was Hera. Because
I didn't mind that.
Well, you have the hindsight of all of Rebels. I don't.
Yeah, right.
So, like, it was interesting. It was definitely an adjustment because it's like, okay, I'm familiar with about a season and change of Hera so far, and I'm getting the same tones. You know, I'm getting the same character vibes from her. Obviously, she's moved up. You know, she's pledged an allegiance to
the Rebels.
Yeah, and in turn, the New Republic. So, like, I'm kind of wondering of like, okay, so in terms of your side of your growth, how does that shake out? Like,
yeah, like how do you get there?
Yeah, how you get there? Like, what happened to everybody else? Like, I know some things about the end of Rebels that are up in the air, but
yeah,
it was definitely an adjustment. And one of the things I really was surprised about is just sort of the way she was used in this really kind of reflected what I'm familiar with her as, and that's why it was sort of a natural adjustment in terms of like the character, not necessarily her own story, I think is where the division is for me.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what you're saying is that you're just not really sure how like she gets to the point. Like, I'm kind of confused, I guess.
So, like, her interacting with the other characters, like, I got shades of the way she treats Ezra, you know, and like other members of the crew. So it's like, okay, it's still Hera.
Yeah.
But like, what was significant enough in your life that pushed you away from that life and into this to be what, like a general now, right?
Yeah, she's a general.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I don't know if Rebels really answers all these questions.
Okay.
But we'll see.
We will. But it was very cool seeing her, you know, and the fact that she's going to also show up in Squadrons this fall is very cool, so.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's in that trailer.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I wanted to read Squadrons, or Alphabet Squadron, because I don't know if this team is going to play a role in the campaign, because we've seen Hera, we've seen Wedge in that trailer, so maybe these people make a appearance. I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
What did you think of the ending?
I thought it was kind of lackluster.
Yeah, same, and I think it is because we got a sequel.
Yep. Yeah. I really didn't think it was like anything that interesting or anything. I mean, I thought it was interesting that like you could see like Erica's character really turned into somebody who wanted to like save others, which I think is like cool. When she was like trying to blow up all that falling debris from the space station and stuff. Yeah. That was cool for her character, but I mean, like, it was just one of those things that they just like, at the end of the day, they won, and like, that's it.
Yeah, and like
they won a battle, but they didn't win the war, kind of thing. It's like, all right.
So I'm curious to see where the sequel goes, in terms of really continuing to flesh out this era, because we do have a lot of content, as far as I know, in the books that explores post 6, and like exploring the embers of the Empire's collapse and like the beginning of the New Republic. So I am interested in that side of it, of like continuing to build the New Republic, the Resistance, whatever storm sort of governance shows up that we see in 7, So I don't know how much it'll touch on that side of it versus the more boots on the ground perspective that we got in this book. Like, where do you think we're going?
I don't know. I think it's probably the latter.
Yeah. Which I'm cool with, personally.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I don't really have many thoughts on that, to be honest.
What, the future for Alphabet Squadron?
I mean, like, are you talking about the books?
Yes. Specifically, like, the sequel to this book that is out right now.
I forget what the question is. I'm sorry.
Like, do you think it'll explore more of like, hey, another day, another mission, or are we really going to get in the weeds of like, okay, this is how this team fits into the foundations of the Resistance, like the standing army for the New Republic? Like, how does that work out, do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it would have to be that. Sorry, I completely missed that. But
okay.
Yeah, it would have to. I feel like, in my opinion, it would definitely have to be that.
Yeah, because I was just gonna ask, because I know you've read more books than I have in Star Wars. Like, do you think we already have enough of that explored right now with like the post 6 forming of a new government sort of story? Like,
I mean, I don't think that I'm the best person to talk about that. I mean, because I've really only read Bloodline. That's the only book that I've read that takes place after Episode 6. So I'm not exactly sure how many other books there are after that time period. But I mean, the thing is that there's definitely some sort of route in Alphabet Squadron to the Resistance. I'm not exactly sure how exactly it turns out.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some connection between the two. And it wouldn't be a Star Wars book if there wasn't some greater connection to the lore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be a missed opportunity for Disney to not even go that route.
Yeah. So I guess my only other question, did you like the team enough to want to see them pulled into other mediums, / do you think the sort of era for exploring gray in Star Wars lived and died with The Last Jedi on film?
No, I don't think that exploring gray in Star Wars lives and dies with The Last Jedi. I think that that's something that the original trilogy had. I think that's something that's important to Star Wars. In terms of your first question, dude, I kind of want Star Wars Squadrons, the video game, to be like Shadow Wing versus Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah. Which, like, it very well could be. I think when we were kicking around ideas, for the book club, it was like, okay, what's the second book? We definitely had a conversation of like, is Squadrons about them? Like, is that what it is? Because the Squadrons trailer, remember, it was like so honed in on there's the campaign for the Empire, this is the campaign for the Rebels. Like,
dude.
It just makes so much sense, And like, if Hera is in there, then I'd have to imagine there's at least a reference to Alphabet Squadron. All the ships in the game are the ships from Alphabet Squadron. So like,
I know. It works too well. Like, it's gotta be. Like, there's gotta be if it's not that specifically, there's gotta be some connection.
Yeah. I'm doing a little search right now to see if there's any info about that, but why don't you deliver your final thoughts and how you think this stands up to Master and Apprentice?
I think, for me personally, this book is, while I did enjoy it, definitely, I don't think it's one of my favorite of the Star Wars, like the new canon Star Wars books that I've read. Versus, if you were to put it up against Master and Apprentice, I think I would definitely choose Master and Apprentice. Just because I think I like Claudia Gray as a writer more.
Yeah.
And I think and maybe it's because, or maybe it's because like I'm more familiar with those characters. It's more interesting to see her take on those. But that doesn't mean that I'm not interested in Alphabet Squadron. I definitely want to read the next book, and we'll finish that trilogy.
Yeah, I'm with you mostly on everything. Like, I kind of like exploring, especially in this era right now of like where I'm at as a Star Wars fan. I like exploring the more inner workings of the galaxy, politically, like economically, boots on the ground, over the Jedi stuff. And
totally,
I think as a book, I think Master and Apprentice is a little bit better, not significantly, but I did really enjoy Alphabet Squadron. I'm in for the trilogy at this point.
Same.
I want to see more of these characters and this world and their outlook on it, because I feel like, again, as someone who loved The Last Jedi, I don't think we get enough of like doubting the good guys in Star Wars.
Totally.
So
yeah, I think Alphabet Squadron and the story it sets up definitely has it. It could come.
Yeah, for sure. So, also update on the game. The brand new storyline that will take place, quote, during the final days of the Galactic Empire and the rise of the New Republic after the events of Return of the Jedi, is where the campaign takes place for Squadrons. So, timeline event-wise, it's going to be coinciding with events from the Aftermath books, which I knew there was a book series. There's a trilogy called Aftermath that deals with, like, post-6. And some of the events of Alphabet Squadron, timeline-wise. Not specifics of what it is, but there might be some crossover.
Definitely. So I guess if they say that it's brand new, then it probably won't be.
Right, but it can still feature some of the characters, because like it's brand new, but Hera's in it, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Overall, though, greatly enjoyed it.
Same. Good choice.
Yeah. We are gonna take a breather week, just to readjust. The book club has been going very well for both of us. You're flying through books. I'm enjoying them all. Like, all the ones that I've been reading so far, the 2, great.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no right or wrong pace.
Yeah. So, we'll be back next week for the next episode. We'll have our next book figured out then.
For sure.
Just lots of work to hash out in the in-between. So, the update will be then. So, listeners, though, viewers, probably the best way to do it is on YouTube. If you read Alphabet Squadron alongside us, go in the comments section, let us know your thoughts on the book, how it ranks up to Master and Apprentice if you read both.
Tell us how you read the book. See, I read it on a Kindle, I'm
Yeah.
holding my Kindle up, and I think you actually bought the book.
Yes, I have held up the book now 4 times to the camera in our discussion.
Okay. Well, I just held up my Kindle for the second time.
All right. Well, let me tell you, Mike, I know it might not mean much, but the art for the book cover for Squadron, or Alphabet Squadron, much better than the Master and Apprentice one. IMO.
Really? I do know what the cover for Alphabet Squadron looks like, and it does look pretty cool.
Like, I'm a big fan of minimalist colors, minimalist design. We've got a lot of that going on. Small ship on a big blank orange slate. Oof.
So I think we forgot to actually mention, just really quick, this book is like it's like a Marvel and Del Rey like combination, right?
Yeah. So I actually meant to bring that up too. I think there's a comic book about Alphabet Squadron.
I think there is, yeah.
Which I might read, honestly.
Yeah, same.
But that's cool, it's cool to see the new original content of Star Wars not just on screen, and
right.
I'm glad we took the initiative, because I would have been upset if I never read this. I think
I do enjoy these book clubs that we have.
Yeah. So
and I did really enjoy this book. It was good.
Yeah, definitely.
It was quite thrilling.
2 for 2 so far.
2 for 2.
Well, Mike, if there's anything you want to shout out, Twitter, anything, feel free.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris N. Buckley. This show, like I mentioned, is available on YouTube, youtube.com/joyclicks, as well as podcast services like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I know we got some very devoted listeners on audio format.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've seen some of the reviews. I've seen the reviews. I've seen the 5-star Apple reviews. I appreciate it. I like them all.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you want to get extra points in my book, you can do
and
that.
mine.
Yeah, and Mike's. You can go to the Apple Podcast review. 5 stars. Leave a review if you want to. Easy to tap a button. But we also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved with the Joyclicks YouTube podcast universe. We have a variety of shows at this point. My First Mall is a Pokemon show. Jedi Knights, of course, you're listening to it right now. And Joyclicks Gamescast. So we cover video games and Star Wars, essentially. $1 gets you early access to most of the shows, long form. $2 tier gets you recommendations, influence over the shows, rotating segments on each show. So if you want to ask questions to Mike and I about Star Wars, who has the best lightsaber skills, you can do that.
Definitely me, but it's fine.
I would bet, I got 3 lightsabers in this room right now, but you're probably better.
I have zero lightsabers in this room right now, but what I do have is this Watto figure. So I'm holding up Watto.
Very nice.
There you go.
Don't
do the voice.
Oh, no. And then $5 tier is producer credit on the shows. So there you have it. If you're interested in supporting the channel and the podcast and the shows, you can do that. But a simple like goes a long way.
It does indeed.
That's going to do it for this week. Hope you enjoyed. We hope to see you next week, where we will give the announcement of the book. I'll also announce it on Twitter. But that's going to do it. So, until next time, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
General Kenobi.